Here's the moves it starts with. It's a Queen's Gambit decline. And on this episode of the Bobby Bo Show, I'm going to show you how to turn a loss into a win, because even if you make some mistakes, you always deserve to win, no matter what they say. So stay focused, because after knight to c3, they play bishop to b4, pinning the knight to the king, but just continue development with knight to f3. And I get my knights out first, then my bishops, and then I castle, and then I play chess. So after knight to c6, now I trade pawns, opening up the c file for my rook and my queen here, and play a3, making the bishop decide what to do. And when they go back, I play b4, taking some space on the queen side, forcing the bishop back to b6, now double attacking the middle pawn, but currently defended, and I can also support it with e3, but first I'll get my bishop out, bishop to f4, and then I can play e3 next, and my bishop is not blocked in behind the pawn chain, and after knight to e7, they're ready to castle. But I still have to get this bishop out, so e3, and the bishop can come out, and I have this nice solid pawn chain, blocking their bishop off. Bishop has no moves here, but now they castle. And all I have to do is get this bishop out, so bishop to d3, lined up on the king here, potentially a target on the h7 square, so they play h6, also restricting my bishop and knight now, and all I have to do is castle. But I suppose I wanted this bishop in the middle, so I played knight to e5, and after we trade knights, I have a bishop in the middle, lined up on the king here, also this bishop lined up, and maybe I'm getting ready to attack the king side. If my queen could somehow attack on g7, it could be checkmate, but I can't get there right now. But after bishop to f5, I'm seeing how I might be able to get there, because the bishop is currently on this diagonal, so my queen cannot come over, but we can trade bishops, and now I play queen to g4, hitting the undefended knight and threatening checkmate. So what do? Well, they have to play either g6 or queen to d7, defending the knight, but instead they play queen to g5. Mistake, and I'm completely winning. Engine says plus 2.5 now, because after we trade queens, this pawn is undefended. Knight captures d5, and I'm up material. I also have two pieces in the middle of the board here. My bishop is on an open diagonal, completely fine here, and their bishop has nowhere to go. So their pieces are just not as good as my pieces right now, and I'm up a pawn. So plus 2.5 on the engine, but after d6, my knight's under attack, and I have to decide what to do with it. And of course, just take the bishop, simplify into a winning endgame. But it's only a winning endgame if you find the right plan. Pretty much two good moves here. Best move, a4, to stop them from playing b5. Because if they play b5 and they solidify these pawns on light squares, your bishop is just not good, and it's harder to take these pawns. And also, I need to castle still, because I need to get my rooks involved, and I need to start attacking. So I thought I could just play e4, attacking the knight, but I didn't think about what they could do next. I just thought, of course, the knight's just going to move, and then I just have two pawns in the middle, right? But they can just play f6 right now, and my king is stuck in the middle. They're about to break it open. The rooks can come over, and because I haven't castled yet, I'm in trouble. But luckily, they didn't play f6. They played knight to h4, and I'm still good. I can just castle now, but I don't. They're attacking my g2 pawn, and this knight is on the edge of the board. I can just play g3, attacking the knight, and then of course it just has to go back, and I'm just taking more space, right? But no, after g3, the f3 square is no longer defended. Knight to f3, check, hitting my king and my bishop. King goes up, they take. Now my pawns are doubled up in the middle, and I can't defend them after rook to e8. And it seems like I'm going to lose something here. Only way to defend this pawn is f4, but now we trade pawns, and they play f6. And if I take here, then rook captures e4 check, hitting my king and this pawn. And this is actually the best way to go about it, because now I just play king to f3, attacking the rook. And now I just have my king and this pawn here, and I took one of their pawns here. But I was afraid of letting their other rook come over and just opening up the middle here for their rooks to attack my king. So instead of taking the pawn here and letting them check my king, I played rook to d1, taking control of the open file. And after they take my pawn, now I push. And now I have these two connected pawns, almost a passed pawn here, and the middle is closed off, so my king is safe, right? And I'm controlling the open file, so I figured this is better. But instead of pushing for maybe a win, it's definitely a draw now. And after rook to d8, challenging the file here, I think I'm okay to just trade off. But after rook to d1, it's a losing endgame for me if they take my rook. But they must have gotten intimidated by my willingness to trade, so they played rook to a8, attacking my pawn here, but I can just play rook to d3, controlling the open file now, and defending the pawn, so their rook is not doing much, and I have a slight advantage now. But if they would have traded rooks, they would have been able to use this 3 versus 2 over here to win the game. But now c5, and I can try to win again with rook to d6, activating my rook, but I make a bad move again and trade pawns. And now they have a passed pawn, no pawn to stop this pawn, and they probably have some support here with this other pawn. And my a pawn is a target now, so I'm in trouble. I'm just trying to lose this game so I can show you how to win it. So after king to f3, I'm trying to get something going on the open file here with my two pawns versus their one pawn. I think I can turn this into a promotion maybe, but after king to f7, king to g4, king to f6, blocking my pawn from coming forward, I should just play rook to d6 check, and then bring the rook to b6, and let them take my a pawn. But instead I play rook to c3, attacking the pawn here, but it's no good because now they can just play b6, and they have connected pawns now. Still an even game, but after h4 and rook to a4, now they're hitting my pawn, and I should just step back now. But rook to e3, defending the pawns. But look, these pawns can just go down. I'm in trouble now. Rook to d4, h5, and I'm losing. I'm trying to set up some sort of zugzwang where they can't make any good moves, but after c4, I don't realize the threat. I play h6, because after they take the pawn, maybe I can bring my rook over, or my king up, and clear the way for my f-pawn. So I play king to h5, thinking their king has to come back, but just rook to d3, and I see it now. I can't take this rook, because then the pawn is gone. My king is over here, I can't stop it, so I can't take their rook. I have to move my rook back to e1, but now they can just take my a3 pawn, and I'm completely losing now. But all they see is this check here, trying to save the pawn, but if they took the pawn and then I took this pawn, they could checkmate me. But now I can just step to g4, attacking the rook, and after rook captures a3, they're still completely winning, but after rook to h1, they have to defend this pawn. So king to g7, but f6, and I'm still completely losing if they don't fall for the trap here by taking the pawn. Blunder, and I'm down 3 pawns, but it's a draw because I just gave up 1 to get back 2. Check the king, king steps out of the way, take the pawn, and they have this passed pawn, so c3 trying to promote, but they cannot promote because my rook can get behind the pawn here, and I need to go for this pawn and stop their king from coming forward, so king to f5, and after c2, I have to get behind the pawn to stop the promotion, and now they play rook to f3 check, hitting my king, giving up the pawn, but now they play rook to f2, and they defend the pawn. But now the rook has to defend the pawn, and if they ever move the rook down to try to promote, I just take the pawn, and if they ever push, then I take the pawn. So they're stuck here, and it's a draw because neither of us can promote, but I try to by playing king to d6, completely missing the tactic that wins the game for them, but they also missed it. They played king to f6, and now my king just clears the way for the pawn, right? e5, king steps back, e6, king steps back, and I'll just move the king to d7, getting ready to promote here, but they just get behind the pawn. And now their king and their rook attack the pawn, and neither of us can promote. I play e7, checking the king, getting ready to promote. They just go back, and they're about to take my pawn here. So I try to take their pawn, hoping that they'll take my rook, and then I'll be able to promote. But of course, they don't fall for that. They just take my pawn, and now we both have a king and a rook. And after they just check me, I step out of the way, king to e7, king to d4, and it's obviously a draw now. And if we respect each other's skill, we should just be repeating moves or agreeing to a draw. But I'm digging through my bag of tricks here, looking for a way to win the game. You know, they call me Tricky Bobby. So I'm thinking about ways to win a rook. So they check me for a bit, and I just keep running around. We go back and forth a little bit, but I try not to repeat moves to get a draw, because I think I can maybe set up a win if they just make the wrong move. So I bring my king to the edge of the board, king to g5 now. I just keep stepping out of the checks, and now they cannot check me because the king will not defend the rook here. So of course, they just want to keep the checks going. So they play king to f7, but they've fallen for the trap. And now I have to win the game. So I play rook to c7, checking the king. King has to stay on the rook, right? Or else my king takes the rook. So king to e6, but now just rook to c6, checking the king. And after the king steps out of the way, I take the rook, my king defends it, and then soon after I checkmate the king with my king and my rook. So on move 64, they resign the game. Thanks for watching the Bobby Bo Show. Smash the like button if you enjoyed today's episode. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Goodbye.